Hello again everybody, hope you're all doing well. So today we're going to do a nice little project, nice easy project on this little scooter, something that's going to help to make it a bit more usable, and that is to install a secondary fuel tank. So just a tiny bit of background for anyone who hasn't watched any of my previous videos. This is my wife's scooter. It's a 50cc two-stroke, and two-stroke engines are usually a bit more thirsty on fuel than the equivalent sized four-stroke. That's not a complaint, it's just a nature of the beast, especially if you go around tuning it and make it a little bit faster. Obviously it's going to use a little bit more fuel. And on this particular scooter, and I think probably quite a lot of 50cc scooters, the main fuel tank is, I don't know how many litres it is, but it's not particularly big. So you can go a fair distance, but you can't go too far before having to fill up again. So what I wanted to do is stick a secondary fuel tank in here to extend the range so that when we go out together, we don't have to fill up quite so often. So I've already done a few bits of this project already, which I'll show you in a minute, and I'll talk you through it in a second as well. But first, let's just have a look at what we actually need. So the first thing is going to be a fuel tank. You can obviously get like a fuel container or something and modify it yourself, but I've gone the lazy route, and just for reliability, I've gone and bought a purpose-made fuel tank. This is just a cheapo thing from China, 5.5 litres, which should be plenty for extending the range. Obviously, when you're picking a tank, you want to make sure that it's definitely going to fit in the space. So I'm going to be fitting it under the scooter in this position here. This whole bucket area actually looks fairly deep, but it actually isn't. Even a half-face helmet won't actually fit in here and this close. So the space is not useless, but obviously helmets and stuff I have to put in the top box. So I've got lots of space under here I can use. That particular tank fits in this position perfectly. I've already test fitted it, so that's great. And of course the thing closes afterwards. So that's the tank. Next thing we're going to need is some fuel line and some hose clips as well to make it nice and secure. Going to need some self-tapping screws. To secure the tank, there's various ways you could do it, but I'm actually going to use some of this stuff. Now, I don't know what this is called. It's something you can get from your local DIY shop or hardware store if you're American. And it's commonly used for like fencing and stuff like that. So like building, whatever. And then the other thing you're going to need is a fuel tap. Again, I got this off of eBay. So this is just a normal fuel tap from like a small motorcycle or maybe a bit of garden machinery. Obviously you've got your three positions. You've got off, then you've got on and reserve. And then you've got your 2 inlets and 1 outlet, which is what we want. So I've actually already installed this part onto the bike, but I'm going to talk you through it on the board here. You'll have to excuse my terrible drawing because I can't draw. So this is how the system originally was. Now normally you have your fuel tank, and then you might have a pump. It depends where your fuel tank is. So if your standard fuel tank is higher than the carburetor, you probably don't have a pump because it doesn't need one, it's gravity fed. But if in the case of my scooter here, the fuel tank is down on the floor and the carburetor is a bit higher, it will probably have a pump which is run off of a vacuum tube from the inlet. But it doesn't matter if you have the pump or not, it's irrelevant. And then it goes from the pump to the carburetor. Great. So with our new system, basically, we've got our first tank, which is still going down, and then we've got a second tank coming down. And just before, if you don't have a pump, then it doesn't matter. You just have to put the fuel tap between the tank and the carburetor. But if you do have a fuel pump, just to be on the safe side, what I've done is I've got both the tanks going down into the fuel tap, and then the fuel tap then goes to the fuel pump, which then goes to the carburetor. So let me show you what that looks like on the actual bike. Oh, just quickly though, I should also mention that both of these lines have filters, like here and here, okay, which you will see, because it's always a good idea to have fuel filters. Okay, so You'll have to excuse the mess in my garage. I've just finished replacing the clutch flywheel and everything else on my car, which was a nightmare of a job. And I just haven't got around to tidying up yet. So let's come down here. And so this here, you can see this pipe here is coming down from inside the seat. And you can see that's the fuel filter there. And then the pipe is going round. We'll come over to this side. And I've actually, it's up to you where you actually place this, but I've gone and hidden the fuel tap up in here so I can just reach under and switch it, but otherwise people don't know it's there. So that's the tap right there. And right now it's in its down position, which is the on position. So basically that fuel line is coming down into that tap, and then the original fuel line is coming from the original tank there, also into this tap. And then you can see the tap is then connected by this short hose to this thing just here, which is the fuel pump. And finally, the fuel pump as it originally was. I don't know if you can actually see from this angle. Oh, you kind of can, yeah. You can see that pipe coming off of that pump, which is going straight into the carburetor. So that's the piping work, if you like. And if I open the seat here, you can see we've got the pipe coming up. So this is that one that you saw underneath here, connected to that fuel filter. This is coming up, ready to be connected into the tank. So all very easy and simple. So the last thing, I've gone and got this stuff. I've actually already, as I say, test fitted this in here. It's going to sit in this position just like this, which looks like it's actually, I mean, it's higher than this bit here, but actually because of the indent in the seat there, when I close this, there's no issues. Now, the last thing I've done, I'll just take the top off of this because basically I wanted to vent the any gas or anything. I wanted to vent to the outside. So this originally had like a tiny little pinprick in the top, and obviously any excess pressure just goes up through that. What I've done is just make the hole a little bit bigger, not too big. I wanted it to be a real tight fit to make a seal. I've put this extra bit of hose in, and then I have gone ahead and glued this bit at the top here, but really that was overkill. I didn't need to do that because it was a tight fit anyway, but just for a bit of security. So effectively what I can do is I can have this loose, and then obviously when I fill this up, I have that just loose, and then when I do it up, I can then just feed this down through this hole in the bottom here, and off to the side, and that will vent any pressure or any excess gas outside of this bucket area. The reason for that is just so that it doesn't get too smelly under here, you know, just in case. We're not likely to keep anything under here too much because we've got the top box for helmets and stuff like that. But, you know, we keep the bike's documents in here and some other bits, and you never know. It's just nice to have thought of these things. So, let's go ahead and put that back on there. And I'll show you the bracket system. So that sits there just like that. Okay, so the next bit is, again, nice and simple. I've just got this stuff, and I've got ahead and bent it around the tank in the right sort of position. So we've got one that goes around here like so. Got another one which goes on the front, well, just behind the filler thing, like so. And then we've got a third one which will go around the front like this and attach to these other bits to keep it all nice and secure. And all of this is going to be held together, well, this front bracket will just be wrapped around these other two brackets, and the other two brackets will be held down just using normal self-tapping screws like this. So I'm going to go ahead and screw these brackets down, and then I'll show you what it looks like in the end. Okay guys, so we are in. Everything is connected. So you can see I've connected the fuel hose, got a hose clip on there as well. We've got the strap around the front, stop it from sliding anywhere. And we've got the straps secured using those screws. If I give it a bit of a wiggle, it's all good. So now all that's left is to stick some fuel in there and make sure there's no leaks. So I actually pre-mixed the fuel for this particular scooter because the self-lubing system, it worked, but I just never really fully trusted it. So let's see how this goes. I'll just put a bit in to start with and make sure nothing leaks out. Okay, let's just check that's over the level of the fuel hose, which it is. So if there was going to be any leaks, it would be now. Let's go ahead and have a look down in here. Yeah. So I'm not seeing anything leaking from that connection, which is good. That's always a concern. I mean, like, obviously this is a cheap Chinese tank. It's one piece molded plastic, so it's not like the thing itself's going to leak. But if it's going to leak from anywhere, it will leak from that connection where they put it in. But nope, they seem to have done a good enough job of that. It's not leaking from there. So now let's go ahead and look underneath at the secondary fuel filter. There's nothing leaking down. Nothing leaking underneath the bike, which is good. So that is that, and I can already see fuel getting into the fuel filter there as well, which is quite good. Excellent. So that is pretty much it. All that's left now is to fill this up completely, take it for a test ride, and see how many extra kilometers I get from this extra 5.5 litres. Okay guys, so it's actually been a couple of days since I installed the tank. Weather's not been too great, so I've not been able to test it weather. But the weather's supposed to be really nice for the next few days or so, and I intend to use the scooter for going to work and wherever else to test the range of the tank. So as you can see, I've put the torch in here just to give you an idea of the fuel level and stuff, but you can see that I have filled the tank up. It's got... well, I mean, it says 5.5 litres, so yeah, about 5.5 litres of pre-mixed fuel in there. I'm going to go ahead and turn the fuel tap from the on position, which is the main tank, to the reserve position, which is up, which is the new auxiliary tank. So now, when we're running, we're going to be running off of this tank. So we'll see how long it lasts before it runs out, and then I can of course switch to the main tank to get home. Obviously there's a few things that I'll be looking at during the next few days. First will be to make sure that there are no leakages, although as I say, it's been a few days since I've installed this and there are no leaks so far. Another thing I'm quite happy about, this outside vent is working really well. When I open this seat up, I get absolutely no smell of petrol or anything under here, so that's really good. Everything's dry and everything smells just neutral, so fantastic. As I say, I don't keep much under there. I just keep a med kit, which is wrapped in plastic, and vehicle documents, but it's good to know that it's not going to stink of petrol. The only other consideration will be, obviously, this is extra weight. It's not too much extra weight. It's no different to carrying, you know, a jerry can of fuel under the seat, but it is extra weight and it's in a different position, so it is likely to have some very, very small effect on handling. The actual effect won't be too big and it won't be a huge problem, simply because it's installed quite central anyway, which obviously helps, but also a lot of scooters actually have their petrol tanks up here anyway, so and all of the weight, or the vast majority of the weight, is still down low. The engine's at the bottom, the main fuel tank's at the bottom, so really I'm not expecting this to affect handling too much. But at the end of this trial run, once I've drained this tank and found out how many kilometers it does, I'll also report back if there have been any changes to the handling as well. So let's just have a quick look at what the current kilometers are. So we're at what's that, 4,888.1 kilometers before we start. So I will see you guys in a minute, which in reality will have been a few days or so, and we will have a look at the results. Okay guys, so I was actually a little bit delayed finishing this video off because I had some other stuff to do in the meantime. It took me just over a week to drain the secondary tank and determine how many extra kilometers I actually got to it. And in the end, it's now reading 4980. I've done a few extra kilometers since I drained that tank, but I took a picture, compared it to what the kilometers were when we started, and it turns out we get just over 100 kilometers of range to the 5.5 liters in that tank, which seems about right, because that would mean this scooter gets something around about sort of 65 miles to the gallon, like to the UK gallon, sort of 65, 70 miles to the gallon, which for a 2-stroke 50cc slightly tuned scooter is what I'd consider about normal, I think. Still pretty good though. We've got, like I say, almost double the range, because the original tank's about 6.5 liters, so that's probably good for about 120 kilometers, and then the secondary tank is good for another just over 100. So we're looking at around sort of 230 kilometers of range with the two tanks, which, yeah, there you go, not too bad. So there you have it. Hopefully you enjoyed this video, or at very least it was useful. If you did enjoy it, please do give it a like. Subscribe to the channel if you haven't already. Go check out my other videos, and for now, I'll catch you again soon.